Is it Christina Shakur?
Kathy, we can put these at the end of rows. You want me to, what do you have? Hello there. Hi, how are you? Doing all right?
Yeah, actually, thank you.
Maybe it's just that I'm used to seeing those numbers on the white.
Those two are
Yeah, but no, we don't. They're not. We don't think we're really deep, as long as you can. Yeah.
Hey Jay, how are you?
Jay Bradley Goodman, how are you?
Nice to see you.
Good to see you.
Wow. It's not nice out there.
No, I know. I've been twice so far.
Hi Kathy. Oh, you're welcome. So you're running this show? Is that what's happening here?
Back in house, back in house.
Okay, good turnout.
Yeah.
Because you did learn that you don't get students that should be. You knew that.
Yes.
Okay. All right. It's nasty. I only came in about a half hour ago. It's nasty. Yeah. My wife is on her way. She's going to make it to D.C. I dropped her at the airport at about 6 a.m. She's going to D.C. to visit our kids and our new granddaughter. But she made it. Yeah, it wasn't bad at 6 o'clock, but thank you. At 6 o'clock.
Southend Airport? Or
Yeah,
okay.
Southend. So it was fine. But if she hadn't left on that early flight, I think it would have been a good job. And I know I talked to her when she was in Detroit waiting to make her connection, so she's going to make it to D.C. So, yeah, glad we went with the early flight. I haven't prepared anything to say. I'd be happy. What should I say? Describe what we do so they know what it's about. Okay.
I mean, I
Okay,
think Bravo would even say, but you have so much material, it's just like a little bit on each program and then
Okay.
Q&A.
Yeah, okay. And should I talk just for a couple minutes? Just travel for a couple of minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Fair enough.
Okay,
Bye,
thank
Bob.
you.
Jerry, how are you?
All right, sir.
You're so charismatic, I'm gonna give you a lead off.
You can have me lead off, but other than that, I'm going to demur.
That means you have to tell a joke.
I'm not funny.
Still binding.
Yeah, yeah.
You're not funny in that one.
I'm not funny. No, but, I won't talk about the program, but you give me the cue. I'll just talk for a couple of minutes.
Yeah, no, that's perfect because we got a long list.
Okay.
Hi, Eileen.
Oh, no. You need it to speak.
Oh, she's right. Kathy. More handouts?
You treated well today. We'll get your fill. Yeah, yeah. All's well? Actually, you know what? I was going to use this as a prop, so I'll give this to you at the end.
Oh, no worries.
You're welcome. Do you want me up here? Sitting down?
We're gonna get to our stuff later.
Okay.
I'm not part of it. I mean,
But yeah, so wherever you want.
I will sit down and chime in as needed.
yeah. Yeah. So,
Hi, nice to meet you. Are you
Corporate counsel
That's what I
externship.
thought. Yeah, that's such a cool thing.
Just getting it going. So
Good. So excited.
fun, yeah.
Good. I'm in the career development office, and then I kind of help Robert get a Chicago program, and I manage the site business and find new sites to go to. And I'm actually going to. There's a couple of corporate council offices in Chicago I'm starting now. So. Pretty good.
We'll get going momentarily when the last folks are served. No pressure to those who are in line. All right, great. Well, welcome everyone. I like to start these sessions by just asking for a show of hands. How many 1Ls? Woohoo! 2Ls? 3Ls? All right, so, and 2 of the 3Ls are speakers today. So, welcome. I am Bob Jones, for those of you who I haven't met, and I'm sort of the erstwhile coordinator of externship programs, although that's very loosely. We have a lot of instructors, and what we're going to do today is try to do a whirlwind tour of our many externship opportunities. Our instructors are here. We have a couple students who are here to talk about the NIJC externship. We're going to do short spiels and then leave time for Q&A. And you should all know Kathy Kussner. Kathy, raise your hand, who is our externship coordinator and can answer most questions about externships. She sort of helps coordinate a number of the programs. She is in suite 3110 and is always around. You can email her, stop by, and she'll at least be able to point you in the right direction to get an answer to your question. We have brought 2 handouts. One is, it can be so confusing because all of us run our programs a little differently. We have a 1-pager on how do you apply for a particular externship because it's different for just about every program. We're going to post that on our externships webpage. And also, just to sort of spur your thinking about what's possible, we have a handout that lists externship opportunities by subject area. If you're thinking, gosh, I'm interested in whatever it is, corporate counsel work, criminal, environmental, whatever it is, we've tried to capture some of the opportunities, whether locally, Chicago, D.C., et cetera, just to help you think about things, although those possibilities aren't exclusive, and we will work with students to find new opportunities that aren't on our lists. So without further ado, I want to introduce Professor Bradley, who has run the public defender externship for many years. That is our veteran, senior, long-standing, biggest externship program, thanks to his charismatic leadership.
Oh, wow. Wow. I think that's Bob's way of saying I'm old.
I asked him to tell you a joke, but he didn't accept
I don't have any jokes, but I have been orchestrating the public defender program for about 20 years. And I can say that this is for people who want the real immersion experience. It's a true externship. And not to suggest anything negative about other kinds or forms of programs, but it's not really a clinic. I organize things from here, and we have class meetings once a week, but really the heart of it, most of it, is working downtown under the supervision of Indiana lawyers, deputy public defenders. I would describe the experience a bit like Navy SEAL training, where I hear this from other people. I've never seen it myself done. But you get thrown in the deep end of the pool, and you just do the best you can to survive, meaning that it's an immersion downtown with the public defender nearby and working as your supervisor. But we really do want you to operate independently, representing poor people at both the juvenile and adult levels. I grew up in Brooklyn, and in what now seems like a different life, I was a prosecutor in Manhattan in a very congested and dysfunctional courthouse. I'm tempted to say, I rejoice to say that South Bend has some of the same characteristics. So at least in the adult system downtown, we have enough court congestion, dysfunction, and heartbreak for me to say that South Bend experience for you in criminal justice would be like an experience in a bigger city, just on a smaller numerical scale. But one of the things that we can offer is a lot of client contact, an enormous amount of courtroom time. I think this will be good news to most of you. There's no paperwork. There's no out-of-school research. This really is hands-on. So if you're hankering to imagine yourself on Law and Order, but you can't act, this is the nearest thing you're going to get to it, at least while you're in law school. And it's criminal defense work strictly. In the adult system at the courthouse, you work with large calendars and lots of people. In the juvenile system, the calendar is much, much shorter. The work is rewarding and heartbreaking in a different way. But if you have a free morning or a free afternoon on your schedule, and you've completed 3 semesters of law school and therefore can be certified by the Supreme Court as an extern, you can do this with us. And it's not for everybody, and there certainly are many other very good clinical opportunities. But I can say after doing this for about 20 years and having anywhere from 12 to 20 students a semester in the course, very rarely, maybe never, does a student who does it say at the end of the semester, you know, it wasn't that good, or it wasn't what I thought it would be, or gee, that was kind of a waste of time. I'm not sure that if it's a great use of your time to do it more than once, and you can do it more than once. The learning curve is very steep, probably plateaus by the end of the semester. So I think a semester-long experience in public defender externship, again, is not for everybody perhaps, but it seems to work for those who choose it. And if you do choose it, I don't think you'll be disappointed. And I'm upstairs in 3156 if you have questions that you can't ask me during the course of this program.
We'll allow like 1 or 2 questions real quick if anybody has one. Otherwise, you know where to find Professor Bradley. So next, Dean Edmonds runs the Intercollegiate Athletics Externship. Take it away.
Well, good afternoon. Thanks for coming. I'm probably also old, actually older. And actually, our externship is probably, I think, maybe the next one in line. We've been at this for, I think, at least 6 years now. So let me tell you a little bit about the foundation of this. And that's an externship that puts you 4 hours a week in the compliance office here at Notre Dame. And in the fall, we typically have 5 students in the cohort, and in the spring, we typically have 4. In part, that's because the main individual who oversees compliance at Notre Dame, Jill Bodensteiner, is also the program overseer for women's basketball. And since this year, the hope is to continue going all the way through to the Final Four. Her activities are really impacted significantly in the spring, much more so than the fall. We also have 7 classes in which you would have an opportunity to meet all the way from the top athletic director, Jack Swarbrick, will come and talk for about 100 minutes and answer questions. Missy Conboy, who's the senior athletic director and the primary overseer of women's athletics at Notre Dame, and is a member of the infractions committee at the national level for the NCAA, will talk. Tricia Belia, who's the faculty athletic rep and spends a considerable amount of her time in the athletic department and not on her day job, which is being a law professor here in a law school, will also speak. And then you'll get an opportunity to kind of learn how to use the NCAA's database that will allow you to kind of look at their interpretations and their regulations. They have a very thick set of bylaws and rules, which probably only rival the Internal Revenue Code for excitement and denseness and all of that. So this is a pretty popular externship, and it's primarily the province of 3 Ls, but I encourage you as 2 Ls to also get involved and talk to me about your interest in this so that you can kind of maximize your opportunity as a rising 3L to get accepted into the externship. We'll have probably right after break, the applications will go out and a little bit of an explanation about what we do and how to apply for that. We select all of the externs for both the spring and the fall during the spring of the year. So if you have an interest in doing this, you need to apply here within the next month or so. Like I said, 2Ls often don't apply because they know that in the 6 years we've only had 2Ls actually involved in it. There is one other route into this that might work for a rising 2L, and that is to do your field work during the summer and actually take the courses in the fall. And that gives us an opportunity to add typically somebody to both of the cohorts, so to get it above 9 for the year. So that's kind of the basic thing. We've also, we're going to talk a little bit later about Indy Law in D.C., where we've had someone work with the chief legislative individual for the NCAA who happens to be a grad of this law school. We're exploring opportunities in Chicago. We haven't made that work yet with general counsel for one of the teams in Chicago, but we're still working on that. We do have summer externships both in the entertainment and the sports industry that I'm happy to talk to you about, and we're always interested in kind of expanding those opportunities. So I typically hang out in the far end of the law school, about as far from here without being outside in the snow as you can get. Go to the end of the main reading room in the library and take a little bit of a veer to the right. And my office is in there. Come in anytime just to talk about athletics or your interest in either sports or entertainment as a career. So thanks.
I've long thought it wouldn't be Notre Dame if we didn't have a sports law externship. So thanks to Dean Edmonds. All right, from our 2 most venerable externships to our newest one, our corporate counsel externship, which is all of 2 months old, not even yet.
Right.
Professor Jay Lewis.
Thank you. Well, it's not very often that I get to feel young in a crowd here, but thanks to Dean Edmonds and Jerry Bradley, I feel like I'm the new kid on the block. And so our program is new. This is the first semester. We're teaching it. It is, of course, a spin-off from the lawyering practice externship, which you'll hear more about, where we focus on placements in corporate legal departments. The opportunity is for you to work there as an extern either 8 hours a week or 12 hours a week, whether that's 3 credits or 4 credits, depending upon the need of the particular legal department. And the idea is to get you inside of a corporate legal department to get the feeling of what it's like to practice there. And you'll find that it's different from law firm life, as you might imagine. Not only do the lawyers there not have to think about billing and collection and billable hours and that sort of thing, but the lawyers there from time to time are called upon to take their lawyer hat off and put on their business manager hat or their business advisor hat, And there's a different perspective that arises then. Corporate counsel don't just handle corporate matters, of course. They do handle a lot of contract work, but depending upon the company, corporate counsel may be IP counsel or labor and employment counsel, and you may be working alongside one of those type of specialists, in-house specialists. But the idea is to get you exposure to that, thinking that perhaps one day that may be a career that you might like to follow. You might like to become an in-house counsel, or if not, that as outside counsel, as law firm counsel, you might like to understand how in-house counsel think, so that you can better represent them and come in and talk to them and say, "Oh, I know your world. I worked for a semester as an extern with a company much like yours." So that's the idea. Right now the program is small. We're trying to expand it and add additional companies to create additional opportunities for you guys to be externs. And you apply through Simplicity. Once we get the placements online, you put in an application, and each company gets a number of applications and chooses which of the students they want to be their extern for the semester, or externs. We have a couple who take 2. That's about all I have.
Why don't you mention a couple of places where we have?
Right. Well, it starts with the University of Notre Dame. We have at the General Counsel's office. There's a couple placements there. There's a company in town called Bradley Company, which is a large real estate development company that has 2 externs today. St. Joseph Health System, which is a hospital system, basically, healthcare law. They have an externship for us. We have a public company called Thor, which is one of the largest companies in our area here. It's based in Elkhart County. It's a big RV manufacturing company. They have 5 in-house counsel, and they have an extern we have there as well. AM General, we're working on a couple of other bank externships that have used externs before. So it's a cross-section of medium-sized companies, large companies, private companies, public companies. Thank you.
Somebody had a question. Go ahead.
Yes. Yeah, this semester we have both 2 and 3.
And I'm happy to talk in a short while about some of these nuts and bolts, who's eligible and credits and what the heck's a fieldwork credit. But I do want to give our professors and students a chance to talk about the substance of the externships. Christina Shakur and Stephanie Torres did the National Immigrant Justice Center externship. It's taught by adjunct Professor Lisa Koop, who couldn't be here today, but these guys are going to talk about their experiences. So fire away.
Okay, so we were partners actually. So National Immigrant Justice Center is based in Chicago, and they have a Goshen office. But here we had class once a week, and you didn't have to take immigration, so it was kind of a crash course into immigration. And then we also met up with our clients when needed. So we met up with our clients mostly in Goshen, only one time in South Bend. The other pair met up in South Bend. And like I had taken immigration before. You were in immigration at the time. The other 2 in our program hadn't taken immigration before. So you don't have to be in that class, but if you're interested at all, we had clients, a mother and son, and we were actually their lawyers. So we met with them and talked to them and explained to them the law, and then we actually got to represent them in a merits hearing.
Yeah, so we actually worked on an asylum case, but what we hear from Lisa is that she also does other things. So she does adjustment of status, work. So work visas. So you can do like the paperwork aspect of it. We were just fortunate. We came in at a time where the class before us had already worked with our clients and done all of the intake information, and we picked up where they left off, and we were able to write a brief, which we submitted to the court. And like Christina said, we went in front of an immigration court judge in Chicago, and we actually won our case. So Maria and Jonathan were able to stay and adjust status.
And then we were able to, from that, apply for family reunification for her two daughters who were still in El Salvador. So it's a really rewarding experience, and we are hands-on. You are the attorneys at the court against a government attorney for your clients.
She's also worked on cases from immigrants from Muslim countries. So although Spanish helps with immigrants who are coming in from Latin American countries, it's not required, but it can be helpful just depending on what client you have. And another thing to note is that although there are no classes that are required to take before you take the class, taking professional responsibility before or concurrently with the externship I think, is required.
Yeah, and
Right.
it's open to 2Ls and 3Ls. So we had 1 2L and 3 3Ls. And yeah, it's just a great experience. And you guys,
Yeah.
Lisa's really great, and you learn a lot. So.
Any quick questions for Christine and Stephanie?
So that's kind of so you meet once a week, and she is teaching you immigration. There's a crash course and stuff on like the theories, and then every week you kind of just develop, and she prepares you for everything.
Yeah, thanks. In all of our courses, whether it's an in-house clinic or an externship, if a law student is representing clients, typically with the student practice certification, there is an attorney, either a faculty member or a staff attorney at one of the host organizations like the public defenders, who is guiding you, assisting you, monitoring your work, giving you feedback. There's an element, as Professor Bradley said, of being thrown into the water to swim, but that doesn't mean you're thrown into the water to swim without guidance by an attorney. So you can rest assured that you will get the support you need in any of these experiences. So I'm going to talk briefly about a couple of the programs: the lawyering practice externship, Notre Dame Law in DC, or Notre Dame Law in Chicago and DC. Caitlin McBride is here, whom you may know from CDO, but she's also in Chicago and playing a major role in the Notre Dame Law in Chicago program. I'm going to make a sort of slight detour and give a little pitch about why externships. Why are they even in our curriculum? Why should you think about doing one? What can you get out of them? So, first of all, there are competencies that you need to learn to be a lawyer that you can't just learn in the regular classroom. There's fundamental, foundational, critical doctrinal learning that you have to do. But if you look on our webpage, there's a document that our faculty created about competencies that we want our graduates to have, and they include client relationship skills, interpersonal skills, problem-solving skills, a variety of things that you learn best or more completely if you can do hands-on work. You encounter clients, you encounter the complexities of practice. So there's a lot of sort of lawyering competency, lawyering skill work that you can do through an externship or a clinic that's an important complement to your other classwork. Also, it's important, if you think you're interested, all of you are exploring what you want to do, where you want to be in the law. You're not going to know if an area of law is for you until you've tried it. You have to put your hands on it. You have to do it. You have to be in that messy courtroom that Professor Bradley described and just feel what criminal law practice is like before you know at a gut level, this is for me, this is something I want to pursue, or corporate counsel work, or environmental work, or whatever it is. And what we've tried to do in recent years is develop our externship programs in a way that basically allows our students to explore any realm of law practice that you might be interested in. And that's sort of a lead-in. I mean, there are other reasons to do externships, but those are a couple, and it's a little bit of a lead into the lawyering practice externship. What is this course that has such a generic milquetoast name? It's generic and milquetoast because it was designed to be sort of an all-purpose gap filler. So we have these subject-specific externships you've heard about, but we want you to have a chance to explore other things as well. So through the lawyering practice externship, you can work locally or regionally. You know, mostly students work in the South Bend area, but we've had students go to Chicago or Indianapolis. You can work in a judicial chambers, state, federal, whatever it is, any nonprofit, any legal nonprofit. So groups like Indiana Legal Services, for example, that wouldn't be covered in one of our other externships are open to you through this. Governmental, state, federal, local. For example, in South Bend, we have students in the City of South Bend Legal Department. We have 4 students every semester. They have a fantastic experience. Prosecutors' offices. We can't let the public defenders, you know, have the whole field. So we have students doing prosecutorial externships. St. Joe County prosecutor, U.S. attorney here. We have students at the Elkhart County prosecutor, Cass County, Berrien County. A lot of those are open. Well, we did have corporate counsel, as I think Professor Lewis mentioned, in this class, and we've now broken it out into its own class because he can do it so much better than me. But the idea is basically anything in the law except a private firm you can have an externship experience in, and we'll work with you to find new things if we don't have an existing placement that works. Notre Dame Law in Chicago is designed with a similar purpose in mind. So Notre Dame Law in Chicago, you go and spend a full semester. You live there. By the way, you can do it in the fall. You can come back for football weekends, I promise. It's football friendly. It's fall and spring. You do a 32-hour-a-week externship. You do a seminar every week. I go into Chicago every Thursday and teach a 2-hour seminar to the students there. And then you do a little bit of other coursework. You have to earn like 4 additional credits that you can do. Most students do by videoing into one of the classes here on campus, although there are many other ways that you can earn credits if you're in Chicago. And again, the idea is to open up that whole market, second biggest legal market in the United States, to you guys, and imagine what's there. We've tried to put some of the opportunities on this document that we've passed around, but any nonprofit, governmental, local, state, federal, judicial, state, federal, corporate counsel offices, it's all open. And the possibilities are endless in Chicago. The federal government is so heavily represented there. Every federal agency is there. We have students doing everything under the sun. So between, the lawyering practice externship locally and these courses and the full semester in Chicago, you can do virtually anything you can imagine. And now we've added Notre Dame Law in D.C., which we've been offering the last 2 spring semesters. It's not officially yet a permanent program, but it's very highly likely to be continued, next spring and thereafter. And that one's focused more on the federal government, federal agencies, legislative agencies, things that relate to the federal government. Dean Edmonds mentioned the NCAA Legislative Affairs Office. There's a reason why that's located in D.C., as you can imagine. So bottom line is, sort of the message is, you can do about anything there is to do. Caitlin, do you want to add anything about Chicago or D.C., any of these?
Yeah, if you go on the website, you can see a list of places you can work, and it's Chicago that you want to work at, you know, that it's not on the list, that we've never had an extern at, it totally does not preclude you from going there. Just have a conversation with me, preferably, you know, as far in advance as you can, and I will try to work to build a relationship with them and get you there if we can. Obviously, you need to have adequate supervision. You can't just on any organization. Let me know, and you know, Bob and I will try to always, both of us have a really opportunities that finding of it. Just if you want to talk through externships, and even if you have no clue, and like, just help me. You know, both of us are really open about it. You can always call or email. Policy, so to speak. So please give me a call.
And Eileen Liao is sitting here in the front row. She did the Chicago program, and she can give you the straight poop too. You can make a comment or not, but I'm just putting you on the spot to answer questions if people want to talk to you.
Experience. I think I learned a lot more that one semester than I did. You actually put into practice. Because like the procedure, I thought like, oh, when am I ever going to use this? But actually, like I know it's like always something that you have to know to be really great, but actually putting it into practice a lot easier to understand. Like, a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Where were you, Eileen? Where were you working?
I was at the Department of Labor and Solicitor.
Yeah, just as an example, labor law, Eileen was at the U.S. Department of Labor. We have a student this semester at the National Labor Relations Board in Chicago. We've had students at the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. You know, those aren't the only labor law opportunities that are available there. If you're interested in environmental law, we've had students at the US EPA, at the NRDC, at the Environmental Law and Policy Center of the Midwest in Chicago, you know, these fantastic organizations. And we could spin that out for other areas of practice. And these DC and Chicago programs can extend what you're able to do here. Professor Edmonds talked about, you know, a student doing the intercollegiate athletics externship here and then going to the NCAA. We've had students do our intellectual property program here and our intellectual property clinic here, and now we have a couple of students at the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office in D.C. for this semester. So, you know, they're going to come out with the best possible experience and resume you could imagine having at any school in that field. So those are some of the examples. Before I take these questions, I'm gonna say like one sentence each on the other three programs on this list, and then I'll open it up. Appalachia is a fantastic experience that happens over either spring break or fall break. Every spring break or fall break, there's a group of up to 6 students that go to Eastern Kentucky and work with low-income and legal services lawyers in the mountains of Eastern Kentucky and Central Appalachia. It's beautiful. It's fascinating. It's an amazing experience. I just met with students this morning who are going to be going over spring break. There's some information on the web page. I would love to talk to you about Appalachia. I'm a Kentuckian, so I love doing that course. London, folks ask about London, what's available there, and I'm going to give you some examples of externships that are available in London. They're actually called, I think we call them officially London internships, but they're usually 2-credit externships. You have to put in, I think, 120 hours during the semester to earn a couple of credits. Students work with British solicitors, barristers. We've had students at the U.S. Embassy. We've had students at big firms, British firms, but also American firms that have offices in London. We've had students at NGOs like Amnesty International. There's some major international NGOs that are based in London. We had a student recently work with an immigration lawyer in London who helped British professionals get visas to come work in the United States. So there's a variety of opportunities there. It's a little complicated. If you're going to go to London and you're thinking about doing an internship, you have to actually get a visa that will allow you to work. You can't just show up and say, hey, I want to do an externship. But Dean Alford and the London director, Jeffrey Bennett, can help people figure out some of those details. Summer, I'm just going to say, the summer externship is just a 1-credit externship. Again, there's a description on the web. The main reason it exists is that some students will get positions during the summer that are volunteer positions. You can't get academic credit for a position that you're being paid for, that you're being compensated for.
You're getting summer stipend, no externship credit.
Yeah. But sometimes students are in a position where they want to work at a particular place, they want to volunteer there, and the employer will require that you be in a program conferring academic credit as a condition of being able to work there during the summer. We have a mechanism to do that and earn a credit, doing a little bit of work with the professor. So that's what that's about. If you can, so my main message on that is, if you can get a paying summer gig, get the paid gig. But there's a way to get this credit if you need to get this credit. All right, now I'm going to open the floor up all the way in the back row. The way, so the simple answer is no. We want the placements in DC to be things that are somehow related to the fact that it's the nation's capital. And so you can imagine being at, a corporate counsel office or a nonprofit or a federal government agency or an executive office or whatever. There are a variety of places, but we wouldn't so for example, you can go to Chicago and work at the Cook County Public Defender in a felony trial courtroom and live in a felony trial courtroom for a semester and just go through combat with public defenders. We would not let you do that in DC because there's no particular relationship to the federal government with that. We'd say go to Chicago if you want to do that. We're trying to save DC for federal government related things. But I can imagine all sorts of organizations that could meet that criteria. So I hope that. Yeah, thank you. Let me talk about credits for a minute. So when you take an externship course, the credits for that course are divided between fieldwork credits and classroom credits. And there's a division for each course. If you do, corporate counsel externship, Professor Lewis mentioned that it's either 3 or 4 credits. You get 1 credit for the classroom portion and either 2 fieldwork credits or 3 fieldwork credits, depending on how much you do. Usually it's 4 hours a week, translates into 1 fieldwork credit. Chicago is 2 classroom credits, 8 fieldwork credits, 32 hours a week in the field. So you're allowed up to 10 fieldwork credits toward graduation. And I'm making that, first of all, a fieldwork credit is a full academic credit. It's not co-curricular. It's the real thing. It counts toward graduation. And the only reason we flag it as fieldwork is so that we can keep track of how many of those you're doing. So you can do the Chicago program. You'd earn 10 credits through the externship overall, but only 8 fieldwork credits. And do the corporate counsel externship here, the 3-credit version where you'd be earning 2 fieldwork credits. So it's confusing. It's inherently confusing, but it's not like you go to Chicago and you earn 10 credits and then you say, oh, I'm done, with externships. So 10 fieldwork credits. And if you look on the web page, and if you look in the course catalog, I think you'll see how many of each kind of credit each course has, and you will see some courses split up. I can't remember exactly in the course catalog, but like if you go to the Chicago program, you'll be registered for, Chicago ND Law and Chicago Seminar, ND Law and Chicago Fieldwork, or for lawyering practice, it's lawyering practice instruction or lawyering practice fieldwork. So you might even see those listed as separate courses, but that's why.
Another question about placement. Component of the externship. Is the placement high? Like, I would imagine a lot of kids want to be in the U.S. federal defender program. So our placements here in Notre Dame.
We have, and I'll invite Caitlin to comment on this. We have a virtually 100% record of placements in Chicago and DC. These places are competitive in the sense that they have students from different schools applying. They love our students, they love our program because our programs are so highly structured. They know we're not just sort of dumping you in their office and saying, here's a student who'll do work. First of all, in Chicago, nobody else has externs that work 32 hours a week during the school year. Their eyes light up and they say, oh my gosh, I can have an extern for 32 hours a week. Are you kidding? But even with that, and I'm not just blowing smoke at you, we have supervisors that say, I want a Notre Dame student. Like, Notre Dame students have such a fantastic reputation. And so we have a really, really, really good track record of getting our students into these placements. They know that not only you put in a lot of time and not only do they respect Notre Dame, but we're very structured about the requirements for you and for them, and we're meeting with them, and Caitlin's doing site visits, and they know we're watching and paying attention, and they actually really welcome that because they know our students have like many layers of accountability to really work hard and do a good job. So please don't look at something and say, oh, I would never get that, because we want to work with you and help you get it. Yeah.
Quick follow-up question. So, the program in Chicago is only 10 hours, you said? Like, for graduation?
So here's how it works. In DC, it's the same way. You get 8 fieldwork credits. You get 2 classroom credits for the externship. That's 10. Under the Hoynes Code, you have to earn 14 credit hours in a semester as a minimum requirement. So you have to find a way to earn 4 more credits beyond the externship. In Chicago, for example, we have some students who will come and do intensive trial ad, 4-credit course before classes start. Then they'll come back a few times for trials or whatever. We'll have students video in. That's why we've got screens in the back of this room. We have 4 classrooms equipped now for distance learning. We have video class. I haven't shown you the fancy pictures of the Chicago classroom. We have this fantastic classroom facility there that's state of the art, and students are constantly participating back and forth with classes in this building. You can do directed readings. Some students do journal work from out of town. Some students will come back for 1 day a week for a seminar. I mean, Chicago's not that far. You can come back 1 day a week. It's hard to come back more than one. Eileen wants to add to that.
I think you can also stack your journal points, which is what I did. So I just took one of the. That way I just took 1, 2.
DC's a little more limited because you can't come back, obviously, back and forth. So it's journals, directed readings, or video participation in the classroom. Stephanie wants to add.
That's really good because I didn't know. I did both ends. I can't do on DC and
You can't. Obviously, if you did ND Law and in Chicago and Indy Law and DC, you'd end up with 16 fieldwork credits, which you can't do. But you can do, and I forgot to mention Stephanie had done DC, I'm sorry. She's wearing multiple hats here today. We have students who go to London and then do a semester in DC or Chicago. That's possible. You're allowed 2 semesters away from campus. Going back to the credits, sometimes students ask me, well, what about clinics? Don't worry about that. Clinic credits are all just regular academic credits. There's nothing, you can do your 10 fieldwork credits and externships and still do a clinic. I mean, you just don't have to worry about those counting in the same way. Yeah.
I wanted to add one point I forgot to mention. We are open to new corporate counsel placements. So there may be a student who lives within an hour or 2 from here who has a friend of the family that's general counsel with some company that might be open to having them come in and be, corporate counsel extern there. We're open to talking about that. The one qualification on that is you have to actually go there for 8 hours a week or 12 hours a week if you're getting 4 credits to do the externship. We don't allow you to just check in with them and then do all your research and writing here at the law school. So, but if you have an idea of some placement that might work for you, whether that be in Chicago or Southwest Michigan or Indianapolis or wherever you may be from, talk to me and we'll see if we can't work that out too.
And thank you. And I would add the same thing for lawyering practice externship, Notre Dame Law in Chicago, Notre Dame Law in DC. We are happy for students to be entrepreneurial and to identify places. We haven't had students, in DC, we have somebody at the U.S. Agency for International Development. He found that himself and figured that. But we do want you to consult with us before you sort of go talk to a new place that hasn't been part of our program. We want you to check in with Professor Lewis if it's a corporate counsel place, or with me if it's for, or Kaylin McBride if it's for Chicago, or lawyering practice externship or DC, because we want to vet that placement. We're happy to talk to them, work with them. We just want to make sure that they'll meet our criteria. Yeah, so lawyering practice externship, you can go anywhere you can strike, within a reasonable distance. So it's hard, but we've had students go to Chicago and do their lawyering practice externship placement in Chicago. We've had students do it in Indianapolis. We've had students in other places regionally, and it's fine. But you have to find a place that'll take you, usually 2 days a week. Usually they're not interested in 1 day a week. They want you to be there at least 2. But yeah, we have a couple of students this semester who are doing lawyering practice externship and doing placements in Chicago. So yeah, Chicago's a little bit of a hybrid because you can do either program there. But some places are particular. Like the Securities and Exchange Commission in Chicago would take a 2-day-a-week extern. They won't take a full-time extern. It makes no sense to me. And there are other places that'll take a full-time, won't take a 2-day-a-week. But we're happy to, we love to be in conversation. That's one of the messages. You may think you know what you want to do. You may have an idea. But if you come talk to us to explore it, I might be able to say to Professor Lewis or Caitlin, hey, have you thought about, this placement or that placement? Here's an example. Students say, I'm interested in doing transactional law. And what in-house counsel offices do you have in Chicago? Well, it's never occurred to them that the city of Chicago is this gigantic corporation that runs O'Hare Airport, which is a small city, and Midway Airport, and has all these facilities and is doing mega deals constantly. And imagine the level of contracting that they're this massive transactional machine, and we have students do externships in their law department and get fantastic experience with transactional practice. But you know, there are things like that that might not occur to you. So talk to us. You know, prosecutor externships, there are a lot of different offices around here. They have nuances. They have differences in the way they operate their externships. So, but if you come see me, I can clue you in on those nuances. So the doors are open. All right, well, thank you. Take more pizza. And if you're not going to take the pizza, take it upstairs. Do your classmates a favor.